Hey, welcome to Whitecap, the Canadian Sailing Podcast. I'm Dave Krypton, longtime dinghy sailor and passionate fan of Canadian sailing. I also manage a sailing collective in New Brunswick called the Skull Island Race Team. Today on the podcast, I'm excited to welcome 49er FX sailors Georgia and Antonia Lewin-LaFrance. These sisters are currently the highest-ranking Canadian FX team in the world. Learning to sail in Chester, Nova Scotia, they rose through the ranks separately in lasers and 420s, but combined in the FX in 2018. In 2019, they won the Canadians and then went on an absolute tear in 2021, placing third at the Europeans and sixth at the Worlds in Oman, winning the Canadian Rolex Sailors of the Year in 2022. Georgia was also SailGP Canada's primary chief strategist and co-pilot for the first two seasons of SailGP, earning the nickname Speedy G from skipper Phil Robertson. Looking forward to Paris 2024, they are in a dogfight with Ali Tenhove and Mariah Millen to qualify as the FX team for the Olympics. Georgia, Antonia, welcome.
Hey,
Hi.
thanks for having us.
So we start out these podcasts generally with a short answer section. And you guys ready for that?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
Blue Nose One Design or International One Design?
Blue Nose.
Okay. Upwind or downwind?
Upwind.
Okay. Percentage of importance to the start of a race?
Of the
Start
start.
of a race.
You can answer.
It depends, but let's say on average, maybe 60 to 70%.
60 or 70, yeah. St. Margaret's Bay or Palma?
St. Margaret's
Yeah,
Bay.
St. Margaret's Bay.
It's home.
All right. Foiling or floating?
Floating.
Okay. Is heavy weather jibing in a 49er ever fun?
Yeah.
It's like one of the most fun.
Okay. Okay, cool. Helmets or baseball caps?
Helmets.
Helmet. Oh, both. Actually, both.
Antonio goes baseball cap and then helmet on top. Kind of a Nathan Nutteridge vibe.
It's super cute. Sorry.
Do you prefer a regatta with a medal race or not?
Yeah, I think it's cool.
Okay. This might be weird. Favorite band visit Chester Race Week?
Favorite band.
Favorite band? It would have to be Dark and Stormy.
True.
What are your 2K times?
Our 2K rows. Thankfully we don't have to do that anymore. So it's been a while since we've
Oh, you don't?
no.
Oh, okay.
Personal best was 7:29.
Okay.
Mine's really
Where do you keep your Rolexes?
in my bedroom.
In a hollowed out book.
Are you known as Georgia and Antonia or Antonia and Georgia?
See, I think Georgia and Antonia kind of rolls off the tongue a bit more, but somehow
Right.
they're the same amount of syllables, so it's kind of interchangeable.
Yeah.
But skipper's name first.
What do you know what your current world ranking is in FX?
I think it's 9th right now.
6th that I read.
Oh, really?
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. That's good that you don't know it. It means you're thinking about process, not performance.
Yeah.
So that's the end of the short answer. So you two didn't always sail together, right? Could you kind of take me through your kind of sailing pathway from learning to sail until like becoming like racing seriously?
Yeah, sure. Well, we both started at Chester Yacht Club here on South Shore of Nova Scotia, and I was one of the only girls in my class in Opti, and I was like pretty like it wasn't super fun being with all the boys, but it made me kind of competitive. But anyways, I think I was like a full-on woman, but at the time I was 12. I moved out of the Opti pretty quickly, and Georgia got my old Opti Zulu.
It was destroyed.
Yeah, just destroyed
I always got
it.
that.
But anyways, I drove for a little bit. So I started in Club 420 and had a whole bunch of different crews. And then I started sailing out of the squadron in the winters because we moved here full time.
Okay.
And then I started working a job. Basically, I stopped sailing for university. And actually, sorry, I had previously sailed laser. Like I switched from 420 to laser, and then stopped for university. And I was coaching in the summer, and Georgia called me up and was like, "Oh my God, I need a crew for this C420 U.S. Nationals. I need you to. Can you come and do that for me?" And I said, "Yeah," and we went down and like had a blast and decided we'd try and sail together.
What year was that regatta, the U.S. C420 Nationals?
2016.
Yeah, it must have been around 2016.
Yeah,
a while ago.
Okay. And then you stuck together since, or?
No, not really. Because Georgia had a few years left in the
youth stuff.
Yeah.
So I sailed with my last partnership, like kind of the longest one was with Maddie Gillis, who's doing Anacras with Galen now.
Right.
We hit it strong for a while.
She was on the podcast.
Yeah. Love Maddie. We're still great friends. And then we stopped sailing together. She had a bit more youth to go. And then I was kind of had my eyes set on the FX, and then we kind of like teamed up after that and did it for a while with university, which was like, or 2 years. So we weren't like super full time. And then when COVID hit, we were able to actually start sailing FX more seriously. And then since then, it's more of a full-time gig, I guess.
So, Georgia, you went to I-420. Was anyone sailing I-420s at that time in Canada, or were most people doing C-420s?
I remember there was like 1 or 2 I-420s kicking around from, so Ali Surratt and Ali Tenhove did it for a while together. And then there was like the Max Flynn and can't remember who he sailed with, but so they'd done it a bit, but by the time I kind of started, they were done. But their boats were still kicking around. But I had I was kind of always sailing with these 2 guys, Pat and Ari from Kingston, Ontario. And so we kind of did the journey together, like transitioned, drove to the US, bought some I-420s, kind of discovered the boat together. We're learning it together, which was like so crucial and nice to have someone else there to tell us how to do things.
Right. Do you have an opinion on C420s versus kind of I-420s in North America, and what, who might be sailing one or the other, and yeah, just an opinion on those 2 boats and how they're used in North America?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is like if you're sailing, and the more hours you get on the water, like you're just going to improve more and more. But I guess like on an international scene, no one sails the C420, so it was a bit of a shock.
I can't
going international for the first time. Like we were like pretty fresh, so in that sense, but I guess it was still good to like have to learn about a new boat, think something is so much more complicated, and kind of discover it.
Right. I mean, the fleet's so much bigger, right? The C420 fleets are so much bigger in North America,
which is amazing.
So, Antonia, is it true that you weren't really into racing very much, or yeah? I think I've heard that, or I think I saw you in a video say something about that.
Yeah, I think when I was little, in my first ever Opti regatta, the Opti Jam here in Chester, I went out on a stormy day. I was in Greenfleet, and the boom came and whacked me in the nose, and I went in bawling. And I was like, "No, Mommy and Daddy, I can't go back out." And they were like, "No, you made a commitment that you have to stick with it." And I hated it. I really hated it. And then eventually, I think, the first race that you do, that you're kind of at the front of the fleet, you kind of think to yourself, this is really fun, and it's really, kind of get your adrenaline up. So wherever you it's
a myth.
Yeah,
Busters.
Yeah.
She was a racer. when she hopped in with me in the 420, I was like, she was, you know, calling the phase, like, we got attack. I was like, wow. I've never, no, I'm kidding, but
I think what I saw was one of those videos, and you just kind of you said like, "Oh, I just like to send it." So I thought maybe you were more like session oriented and less like goal and win oriented.
I know exactly what video you're talking about, and I was like, that sounds so weird. I don't know why I said that because there's such a big fear threshold in the FX. Like I think the biggest thing in progressing in the boat is having to push yourself through some pretty hairy situations. And I said like I just like to send it, but it's actually taken a long time to build up the confidence to really send it. And like maybe I still don't send it as hard as I could, and you never really know that. You could have pushed it a little bit harder, I guess. I just think that that's so funny. Yeah.
So 2021, you guys came third at the Europeans, and then, well, I would say second female crew, right? Because there was a mixed crew in front of you, and then fourth at the Worlds. What about that season? Kind of made it so successful.
well, I think like I said, during COVID, we actually got the opportunity to like train consistently, put way more hours on the water than we'd ever done because we were both pretty committed to our studies at the time. And so we got the opportunity to, go to Europe and train with the other Canadian girls. And we just like accelerated really, really quickly. It was like the usually at the start of sailing, you have the biggest learning curve. So we just had a crazy learning curve and we were both just loving it. And there was not much pressure back then. Not that there is now, but
Uh-huh.
I think, yeah, we were both just open-minded, loving it. We'd improved really quickly. We were kind of confident, loved the boat. So
Although I have to say that it was kind of a windy season in 2021, and we'd done all this training in Portugal and the Canary Islands, and we had some and Cascais as well. Georgia hates the way I say Cascais. Anyway, but really, it was light and there was a lot of light teams, and we were like, oh. And I think that we just, went into it with no expectations and really just focused on ourselves. And then it, actually at the time I wasn't even looking at results.
Ah.
And I only knew the results, the day before the medal race. And it was, the first medal race. And I remember doing like breathing exercises, like trying to get calm for it. It was
Wow.
super new.
Had you sailed a medal race before that?
Oh my gosh, not even close. Everything was like, what are the rules of the medal race?
Yeah.
We need a red flag.
We literally cut a tip off of one of our mass bags. A 49er.ca mass bag.
Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah, thanks, Trevor. That's actually to this day our I'm not sharing.
Is it to protest somebody?
In the medal race, you need to display a red flag if you're gonna protest another boat, so that the jury can kind of see it and come over and assess the situation.
The first time I had Sarah Douglas on, she said that yeah, she tried not to look at results at all. What about that keeps you, I don't know, more focused, or you don't feel the pressure? Or why do you do that?
I mean, I think that it's definitely, for me at least, I think that if I'm not wrong, you always looked at results.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fairly different. Like I never did, and she always did. But for me, I think it's just I just wanted to go in and just focus on the sailing and not think at the numbers. But now I think it is a good thing to know results. I do actually, and if you can't handle that kind of pressure that the numbers that are associated with the numbers, then I mean there's always going to be something that trips you up, and if you accidentally see the results and you get tripped up, then that's at least what I was thinking. It took a lot of convincing for me to actually look at the results. I'm not saying that I came to it on my own.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So can you tell me about how LGP came about?
Well, after Oman, actually during the summer before, like during the summer of the Tokyo Olympics, Antonia injured her knee, and we kind of always knew that she was going to need to have surgery, and we'd have to take some time out of the boat together. And we decided to do it like right in the winter after Oman, so we could kind of go to a World Championships because we just wanted to have that experience, I guess. Um, and that was right around the time that the team was formed. And so I kind of like had the opportunity because Antonio was recovering from the surgery to get involved with the team. So I did. No regrets.
I was just so happy there was something like I was really happy that the opportunity presented itself for Georgia while I was recovering from surgery because I really could not. I was on the couch for or doing arm workouts for 6 weeks afterwards, and that's a long time to be out of the boat when everyone is training. So
And it was going to be hard for me to find someone else to sail with. So I, I mean, also Sail GP was just like such an opportunity. I feel like neither of us could have given that up. Yeah, it's so cool. So
Right. It was so exciting when it happened, like for those of us who are fans of Canadian sailing, like just if Swiss Swimming got a team, I'm like, hey, it's possible. And then all of a sudden we had a team. It was like, oh, I can't believe this.
I know,
So exciting.
such an exciting time. It was unreal. Yeah.
And it's had such a big effect, on the sport and the country too. Like
Oh my
all
God.
these
Yeah.
people starting to foil, and people who aren't even into sailing are like way into it too.
Yeah. Totally.
I think it's so cool that it's such a good group of people too. Like I'm really proud that Canada was able to put
Yeah.
make up this team of sailors that is just so incredible together. They work so well together. It's it's an honor to represent, honestly.
The next is oh yeah, so I just because also I'm from New Brunswick, so I have connections to the East Coast. And so what can you tell me about your career as Blue Nose sailors?
Well, luckily, our dad has a blue nose, and he's also the president of the Blue Nose Association. So we are inherently a little bit involved, but oh, it's such a fun fleet. It's incredible. I think there was like 30 boats last summer at the two peak events, which is Race Week and the Blue Nose Worlds. The Blue Nose Channel. But it's super competitive, and the quality of racing is like right up there. I mean, we get a top 5, and we're absolutely pumped. Like everyone's
really
super
close.
good, and
The boats are all different, but ours is a classic, and we love her.
there's definitely some controversy over the different hulls and
there's nothing
sail
more.
design.
Oh, please tell me. So yours is a classic, and that's like, is it because it's old, or how is that different?
I guess the building of the boat went through different stages, but we have one of the lead keels, and there was also keels made out of iron, and so the two float differently, I guess, and there's controversy over if one of them is there.
But ours was built in the 70s, and it's kind of like how lasers had a real, sometimes lasers leak, sometimes they don't. It depends on what year they're made. And ours was just made well. Like I think ours is can be, sometimes it sails really fast. It's really competitive, but
there are some boats that
are just
really fast.
Yeah.
And do you guys race on it every year? I mean, I guess you probably don't always have time. If
love to. Our dad is like wants us to be out with him so badly, so that's also, it's like a family thing. But this year, both the big events will be away for them, so we'll miss it. And last year, did we race? No, last year we were also preparing for the World, so usually the timing isn't amazing, unfortunately. But we'll do like the local night racing at the yacht club while we're home.
It's not beer can racing. It people like are frothing at the mouth. It's so competitive. It's really that.
Oh yeah, so one thing I was going to ask was about the 22 Canadians. And that was you guys had a really, I think that was last year when you had a really close regatta with Ali and Mariah, and you're kind of the only two on the course, right? Can you tell me about that regatta and how it went down and how you did or not?
I mean, whenever we come back to Canada, it's recently it's been like us just racing against them. So it's always a fun battle. Usually, whoever gets out.
Actually, you know what? Not if it's light wind. There's
Yeah,
a
if it's
lot
light
of
wind,
light
then-
wind legends. Like the new teams are just lightning fast, and
But if
and the
it's
light
windy,
wind.
there's only been a couple new teams recently, I guess. But
Yeah, it's
Wait, who's the light air? Who's the new team that's really fast in light air?
like I think at the time
Tate, Nadri, and
Audrey and Marion, super fast downwind. They can just basically sail
Point dead
right
downwind.
downwind. Yeah, it's just
Oh yeah.
No chance of driving inside.
yeah, yeah.
So that'll move me on to my listener questions. And Denise Del Mondo, who is a very big fan of the show, she had two questions. One was, is there a rivalry between you and versus Ali and Mariah?
Oh, I think of course, that's going to happen when you have two teams from the same nation. I think that the best thing, the best answer to that would be to say that they're such like we, without that rivalry, there's really, we wouldn't have gotten to the stage that we're at now, and I dare say maybe we've pushed them as well.
Yeah, it's so powerful to have multiple boats from the same country that are similar levels. So I think it's inherently a rivalry, but
every
try to get along.
The racing that we do in Canada together against each other is just like it's just phenomenal, and I think that both teams have different strengths, and it's really like it's still productive to do that one-on-one racing every time we do it.
That's cool that you can come home and have the really specific.
Yeah.
You can really work. So this is a question from Adria Pa, and they ask, is it hard to be sisters in a project like an Olympic campaign?
Very.
You know what? No, not at all. I don't think it's hard at all. What are you talking about? If any sibling sailing team, or actually any sailing team for that matter, ever says that they've never fought before, they're just lying to you. Like they're just lying. So yeah, of course it's been really hard. We're super different, but
very different personalities. But then we're also siblings, so anything goes. Well, hopefully not as much anymore because we're trying to make some boundaries, but it's also really fun and rewarding, and probably stressful for our parents. So I don't think that I've ever had someone push me as hard as George has pushed me, and maybe the same goes for her too.
Here's another question, anonymous, but any thoughts past 2024, one way or the other?
We haven't talked about it yet.
Everything's an open book, pretty much.
Yeah.
Another one from Denise. Was it tough when Georgia got selected for SailGP?
I mean, I was very keen to make it work, and so the guys on the team kind of helped me, make my schedule a couple months in advance. So it's kind of always basically fitting in the SailGP during my time off, which made it so it was a very busy year.
Yeah.
And I did have a couple injuries from SailGP, which made it so that when I came back, we missed some training, which wasn't great.
Can you share what those injuries were?
In Cadiz,
it's Cadiz.
Cadiz. I kind of went there while we had the opportunity to sail in Den Haag, which is the venue for the Worlds coming up, and I was just gonna like fly in and out and miss like just 3 days of sailing basically with Antonia, and then I did something dumb and like tripped on the way in and hit my funny bone, which is the most frustrating injury.
Wow.
But my hand was numb for like a month or so afterwards, so that made
God.
I couldn't sail. Such a frustrating injury. Um,
Oh.
I like judged my recovery based on how well I could eat sushi because like right after it was kind of like pick up the sushi and it would just plop back onto the plate.
So let's see. There was one other. How to deal with nerves before a race?
I mean, Antonia and I work a lot with our mental performance consultant or sports psychologist. I don't know which is the right word, but I always think the most important thing is to remember that nerves are really natural, and I guess it's like all part of the fun of racing, and it's almost like why you race because you love that nervousness and pressure and feeling that it brings you. So I think as long as you keep those nerves and that energy in like a positive way, then it's completely healthy and it just means that you care a lot. And if it's becoming more negative, then yeah, like finding strategies that work for you with your, I don't know, mental performance guy or gal or some like finding a strategy. But I always think nerves are healthy.
That's a good way. That's definitely a good way to think of it. I've decided to have a new section called Three Big Questions. What do you love about sailing?
I think like making friends around the world that kind of are like you but from a different country.
I have the cheesiest answer to that question. Like really, really cheesy answer, but
Let's hear it.
I just absolutely love the feeling of making the boat go fast upwind. It sounds really weird, but
The FX is just such
when you
it's
get
the
it
best
right,
boat.
it's
Such a
magical.
such a beautiful design. We both like seriously fell in love with it. It's such a fun boat, such a fun class.
That's it, right? Make friends and go fast. That's pretty much everything, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
What are you most proud of from your sailing career?
I think that we have a few things to build this system for ourselves and like have this network of having boats on either continent and all these logistics are in place. I think that that's something
It always looked like it was going to be something really hard to achieve, and now we're kind of there and doing it. So, yeah, with the support in place.
That's so cool. Like I've asked almost everyone that question, and no one ever has like, oh, when I won this or when I won that. They're all like, oh, I just loved when I learned how to just like protect the fleet, or I really loved it when we had really good communication, or this kind of thing. So I think that must be something about people that are really high, that are very successful, is you're not thinking about you know your placing so much as like you said, building a team, building a network. Like more important in a lot of ways than getting a great result.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it does. I think that standing on the podium is it's just a like crazy feeling. It really it shouldn't be ignored. I think it's a really big motivator and it's kind of addictive. But yeah, it's the biggest thing is just being proud of like what you've built for yourself and the people you've met, the friends you've made, kind of thing.
And last, advice for aspiring racers of any age.
I would just say put the bow down. I'm just kidding.
I love it.
I would say figure out who's better at something than you are, and just copy them. and then you'll be the best at everything.
Honestly, I think being like humble is such an important trait, especially in maybe teenage athletes, because I think it's really easy to just you know do well here and there and think that you're amazing, but you should just try and enjoy what's next and think about how you can progress and stuff, because there's so many opportunities in sailing. And
Cool. Well, Georgia and Antonia, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
yeah, thank
It's been
you.
fun.
And as I always say, sail fast, have fun, make friends, and I'll see you on the water.
And put the bow down.
Yeah, promise me.